What is up, Nuggets? It's your boy, Killer Pizza, here with a brand new video for you rascals and rapscallions out there. It is day 11 of 12 of our Friday the 13th marathon, where I review a Friday the 13th film every day leading up to the 13th, where I will do a complete franchise ranking. So we are in the home stretch, just 2 more movies to talk about, and today it's going to be 2003's Freddy vs. Jason. This is the 11th movie in the Friday the 13th series, the 3rd film from New Line Cinema, and this is the first one after 4 films without Kane Hodder, which is a bit of a bummer. And I'll tell you what, it's been a bit of a chore to watch these New Line Cinema versions. First they send him to hell, then Jason goes to space, and now we're going to have him versus Freddy, which was a concept they were trying to have happen, I think, 10 to 15 years before it. I think this might have been a little too late, but I digress. Anyways, we'll hop right into the movie. It starts off with Freddy Krueger, and he's given a bit of a backstory of his history when he's in the boiler room in his human form, about to kill this little girl, some pretty brutal shit, and it shows him finally get killed, and he's kind of given his frustrations on how the kids on Elm Street, Springwood or whatever, no longer fear him, and he wants to come back and wreak havoc once again. But in order for Freddy to come back into everyone's dreams, the kids' dreams, he has to be relevant again and have everybody scared of him in his day-to-day life. So the way he goes about this is giving Jason a dream while he's dead in hell and transform it into his mother in his dream, and kind of convincing Jason to go to Elm Street to kill all these kids, which in theory why he would do it is kind of clever for Freddy, that once a bunch of killings like that start happening on Elm Street, everybody's going to assume it's Freddy Krueger. Then word of mouth, once everybody starts fearing Freddy, Freddy will become more powerful and be able to enter their dreams and whatnot. So, I mean, kind of a strange plot, but not really if you kind of go into the Freddy Krueger universe. I mean, I'll give this movie that, you know, it's pretty cool to see them face-to-face in this film, and after watching 10 Friday the 13th movies, it is kind of strange just to see it kind of turn into halfway a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but I digress with that as well. Anyways, we meet our 3 leads, our 3 main girls. We have our final girl, Lori, her 2 friends, one played by Kelly Rowan from Destiny's Child, and her 3rd friend from Catherine Isabel. And hey, I'm never going to complain, get a little Catherine Isabel in a movie, if you know what I'm saying. So, anyways, Catherine's asshole boyfriend comes over, a very unlikable guy, and then they end up hooking up upstairs, and this is when Jason first comes back with one of the coolest kills in the entire movie, where he has these very violent machete stabs into the back of the boyfriend and then just completely folds up the bed. Though there's like CGI involved in this, the kill is pretty badass, and it's nice to see Jason kind of look the way I'm more accustomed to him looking compared to the last 2 films. Granted, he doesn't have the iconic chop in the side of his head, you know, in his head that he originally got from Chris Higgins, but I'll let it slide. This movie, I will just say, is so early 2000s, you know, and I forgot that Ronnie Yu directed this. I was like, man, it's just like Bride of Chucky, you know, same director. It's pretty much the same damn movie in a lot of ways, where Bride of Chucky's actually a pretty badass movie, and this one is, maybe not so much. So, anyways, Lori and her friends, I like their acting when they come running out of the house, acting generally terrified and whatnot. And they go down to the police station, and, you know, the cops are trying to keep it hush-hush with Freddy Krueger. We don't speak that name no more, but in one of the dream sequences, Lori hears the name from, like, this little girl in her dream, and that's enough for her to start spreading around for Freddy to start getting more powerful. And we kind of lead into this plot, this story where as Freddy gains his power back, every time he's bringing someone into like a dream kill or whatever, Jason is still on the prowl, and he will kill them before Freddy can get it, so they create this animosity where Freddy wants to take out Jason at some point. And this movie's fucking weird in the sense that it kind of like gives Jason in the long run kind of like, in wrestling terms, the babyface bill, which, you know, I get like the way he died originally was kind of a sympathetic way, and you feel bad for him, where characters like him and Leatherface are a little more, you know, sympathetic as victims compared to Freddy and Michael Myers, who are pure evil. But at the end of the day, they're slaughtering people whether they deserve it or not. A kill's a kill. All evil, wicked people. So I always find it kind of strange that they kind of put him into that bucket, into that list or whatever. So we end up meeting Laurie's like ex-boyfriend or whatever, and his best friend. 2 decently likable characters. I like the main guy's like friend, the little blonde-haired guy. He's kind of funny and whatnot. And they're in like this mental institution where they kind of hid them away and locked them away from Freddy Krueger, you know, so they don't speak his name and everything. And they end up breaking out because the boyfriend sees on the news that Laurie's house, you know, there was a murder there, and he has to go see his girlfriend. So they break out to go find her. And, you know, she's hesitant, not believing him. You know, the dad doesn't want him around or whatever. And this movie gets kind of strange where he starts adding this backstory. He tells Laurie, like, you know, back when your mom died, you know, it wasn't a car accident. You know, your dad killed her. And it goes like a flashback. I was climbing up into your window, like Calissa explains it all, you know, or Scream for that matter. And he's like, I seen your dad stabbing her to death in the upstairs room. It was your dad. And he's the one that locked us up. His name is on the deal for sending us to the mental ward and everything. And I'm thinking, though I do like character development, something I've griped about in a lot of reviews, and especially the Friday the 13th franchise, like meaningless characters, it's like, do we really need this extra layer of a backstory when we have two franchises pretty much being brought into one, where we already have a backstory with Freddy and like how he has to bring Jason back in to get his powers? It just seems like a little much. And too much new metal in this movie, by the way, too. And this is totally like a Ronnie Yu, right? Am I getting the name right? I don't want to butcher it, but there was this style of filmmaking around this time that had a charm to it, but was also super fucking obnoxious, where it was like all these quick cuts and flashing lights and just cheesiness from the early 2000s, these really cheesy one-liners and a bunch of new metal and everything. So like sometimes I find it can work, and sometimes it's just terrible. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, a double-edged machete in a lot of ways. So it's kind of weird in that regard, but, you know, we end up, you know, I don't want to go too much into this movie. There's not much to say about it. It's a lot of problem solving. These kids sure have this pretty figured out just randomly. Like, I get it, you know, he needs his power, this or that. And I don't know, they got this plan to go down to this hospital and get these pills from the original Nightmare on Elm Street, like these anti-dream pills or whatnot, to try to ward off Jason. And we get to a point where Freddy enters in the dream and stabs Jason with these dream shots or whatever to take him out or something. And the kids decide to tie him up and take him to Camp Crystal Lake. Like, why are we taking him to Camp Crystal Lake? Because if they have their battle, at least it'll be one-on-one and we'll be on, you know, Jason's home turf or whatever. We have some fight scenes, which is a cool thing about it. Freddy versus Jason, you know, they have about 3 showdowns. And one thing I do like when they're fighting, like in the dream sequence down in the boiler room, like Freddy's sequence, is like when Freddy's kind of in control, it's like this red lighting. And then when Jason kind of takes control, it goes to like more of a blue. Like, this is a movie I think would benefit from like a 4K. I don't know if I would get it. Honestly, if they upgraded this whole box set to 4K, I don't know if I would even grab it. Because I think a lot of these movies, especially the earlier ones, have a charm to like kind of looking at how they look. But, you know, with the colors and everything is a nice little touch. But there's like a scene where the water comes down in front of Jason when he's fighting with Freddy, and he gets like scared, and Freddy's like, oh, what? You know, I think I found what you're scared of. And I'm like, dude, Jason's been in the water like so many fucking times the entire Friday the 13th franchise. Now you're saying he's scared of water? He literally like walked through water. He swam through the whole water and pulled himself up on the boat, and Jason Takes Manhattan. He literally like walked through on the floor of the water all the way to Manhattan, and was chained underwater all this time as Zombie Jason. You tell me he's not Zombie Jason anymore? I digress, though, man. Again, like, too many gripes. Like, I remember when this movie came out, I did have fun with it, and I did have fun with this movie when I watched it this time. In the fight sequences, I thought it was a little too, like, Mortal Kombat-y, you know? Like, they're, like, Freddy's literally, like, almost doing, like, borderline, like, karate, kickboxing moves against Jason. I like more when Jason's on the attack against Freddy. I mean, to be fair, what's Freddy supposed to do against Jason? You know, I like this final fight that they have, you know, at the very end, after, you know, Freddy's about to drown Jason in his dream. You know, earlier he changes him back to kid form, like in Jason Takes Manhattan. But I love when Freddy, Laurie pulls Freddy out of the dream when they're in this cabin, and Jason's like attacking, the whole cabin's on fire. She pulls Freddy in the dream. I do love the facial expressions on Robert Englund when he like looks back and sees Jason standing there, and he's in his world now. So like that's kind of fun. And it's like one battle in your world, one battle in his world, and then the third final battle. I do appreciate that, the look of fear, and of course cue the new metal music, and they have this like totally like dated fight scene. I love when Jason grabs Freddy and just smashes him through like all these windowsills and everything. That's kind of fun. They eventually go out and have this big battle where Freddy's kind of shooting these propane tanks at him and everything, and they fight on this construction site, and he's really taking it to Jason. One of my favorite parts of this movie, which it's so cringe when Kelly Rowland is like yelling at Freddy, like, you know, oh, come here, asshole, what's with those big claws? You know, were you compensating for something? I'm like, so cringe. She's such an unlikable character in this movie. There's a lot of unlikable characters in this movie, but I love, like, she's backing up, and then Freddy's just like, and fucking Jason's right behind her, just nails her, and she goes flying, just slams into this tree for the kill. That was pretty fun. And they end up having this final showdown, this final fight, which is pretty fun. You know, like, Jason's ripping Freddy's arms off. They're slashing each other, stabbing each other with machetes. And this is the weird thing, again, about, like, Jason being, like, the good guy and everything in this in a lot of ways. Like, Freddy takes control, and it's to the point where Laurie and her boyfriend, like, think they got him finished. And I do like this shot where, like, the shoes are walking up and you see the machete and you think it's Jason coming to kill him, but really it's Freddy, and he's got the machete with one arm. And then Jason pops out of the water and stabs him with his own arm with the claw. So it's kind of cool. Like, he has his weapon but kills him with Freddy's weapon. Like, that was all right. You know what I mean? And then we got Laurie. She comes swinging with the machete. Welcome to my world, bitch. This is, like, what I'm talking about, dated for this time of, like, early 2000s movies. Like, it's always with these one-liners. That is so cringe. It reminds me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. Like, do your thing, cuz. Like, Laurie is one of the worst final girls in any of these movies. Any of the Friday the 13th movies. Top 3, for sure. I'd say, what's her name? In part 5 and... probably this one, probably the 2 worst final girls. You know, honestly, maybe Jason Goes to Hell, obviously, but that goes without saying. I don't know, man. You know, this movie was really big, and after doing like a little research, you know, this was the highest gross. This grossed more than either one of the franchises did separately, so, like, that's a good thing. You know, I can never complain when, you know, even if a movie's not that good, if it grosses well in the theaters, especially like in 2023 terms where we thought the movie theater was about to die. You know, because, you know, the more people that see horror, that's what I love about October, too. Like, all the normal people are watching horror movies during the month of October. It's just kind of cool. Which, if you're new to horror and you're a casual horror watcher, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We talk about horror every single week, physical media, blah, blah, blah. But this movie, I feel like I was pretty hard on a lot of these films during my reviews, and my heart has changed for some of them as I've let some of these movies linger and rest. But, you know, I'd say maybe half the movies in the entire franchise are really good. Really good. Maybe 8 of them, the original Paramount, and then a lot of, like, the New Line ones are almost all bad. You know, watchable, fun. Like I said, this is another, like, popcorn movie. I've said this before in my reviews. There's some movies that it really says a lot if you can sit down by yourself and watch it and enjoy it. But, you know, you gotta, like, you know, some movies are just like that aren't very good that you could put on. Like, this is one you could throw on Halloween time if you had some friends over, you're having some drinks or doing whatever you do, and everybody would have a good laugh and have some fun, especially for casual fans. So sometimes I think us as, like, hardcore horror fans, myself, I'm speaking for myself at least, I think sometimes maybe we get a little bit jaded with our horror movies where, like, a casual fan could watch us and be like, ooh, Freddy vs. Jason, and then I can see and poke holes and everything and not like it. And maybe I need to not be so jaded and just let people enjoy what they enjoy. I mean, but at the same time, it's no excuse, and I'm not going to hesitate to call a movie shitty, one that sucks. I mean, I wouldn't say this film sucks, but it's not the best. It's just okay. Bad final girl. The music's kind of stupid. There's some fun kills. There's some fun sequences, color sequences. The showdowns are kind of fun. It's just okay. Just a fun movie. I wouldn't say it's nothing special, but yeah, that's all I really got to say about this one. But make sure you guys check out the channel tomorrow. We have our final review. Friday the 13th, the reboot from 2009, and then the franchise ranking on Friday. Other than that, hopefully everybody's having a good one. Blood, Guts, Gore. I'll check you guys next time.